For those of you listening to this who aren't in the app world yet and are wondering if you should join CleverTap, this can seem overwhelming. I know how you feel because this is bringing back memories. There is a lot involved with running a freemium app, and it can seem overwhelming, but trust me, you will figure it out and you'll get good at it. It's just a lot. And we've only scratched the surface. Like Meredith said, I'm Eric Ralls. I've got an app called PlantSnap. Real simple concept. You take a photo of a plant and PlantSnap tells you what it is. I came up with this idea back in 2012. I was at a barbecue at a friend's house. She had a really pretty flower in the backyard. I had no idea what it was. I wasn't even a plant person and I didn't love flowers, but I was curious. And she didn't know, so I wanted to find out. And typed it into Google. The description, that did not work. There were no apps yet that did this. So at that point, someone told me, oh, you've got to go buy a bunch of books and pull out your books and go through them at the plant. And that seemed absurd. It was 2012. So at that point, I became obsessed with building this plant app because it seemed like there had to be an easier way. Plants are really important to our world. Without them, we'd all be dead because they make the oxygen we breathe. So after a lot of stops and starts, I was finally able to build PlantSnap. In July 2017, we launched it as a paid app, which is easy. A person pays a one-time fee, they own the app, you keep it updated, and you hope more people buy it. And all of this stuff that we're going through right now does not really matter because they've already paid for it, and that's all that you need them to do. That was easy, and it seems like a lifetime ago. Fast forward 3 years later, PlantSnap now has over 600,000 plants in our database, about 350 million geotagged plant photos, and that's growing at a rate of 1 million photos a day. And we now have over 40 million installs, added another 25 million since bringing in CleverTap and into the platform, into our app. It is also translated into 37 languages and every day used in 200 countries. So we've grown quite a bit and very quickly, and CleverTap plays a big role in it. Let's see, slide number 3. Let's move on to the next slide. Sorry. As PlantSnap grew in popularity, we knew that if we wanted to be a global app, we had to take it freemium. So in July of 2018, we launched a freemium version of Android only, and it exploded. We had about 3 million installs in the first month, and I had no idea what to do with them. We had no tools in place other than Firebase. I didn't know what these people were doing. I just thought, hey, the more people that can install it, the better. They'll use it. We'll generate revenue through ads. Some people will subscribe. What can be so hard about it? I learned a very hard lesson very quickly, that it is impossible to run a big app without proper software tools and something called a tech stack, which I knew nothing about at that point. So I had to throw myself into a self-taught crash course, Freemium Apps 101. I had to learn about retention. I had to learn about attribution, user engagement, user metrics, conversion metrics, how to find out what people are doing inside the app, why it matters, how to shift them and get them to use different parts of the app. Everything basically that we've been talking about, plus 100 other things. So at that point, I started looking through, I feel like I saw 100 different software demos. Each of them had different measurement abilities, but I chose CleverTap because number one, the people. everyone was really nice and accommodating. Number two, it did pretty much everything I needed. So if you've got one tool that does almost everything except for attribution, which is a whole different monster that we don't want to get into, then why deal with a tech stack? So it's turned out to be the best decision that I've ever made for the company at this point. And I'm patting myself on the back for that. And thank you to CleverTap for doing a good presentation and convincing me to come on board. So at that point, when I felt like I had a solid grip on CleverTap and knew how to navigate the freemium app market, about a year ago, March 2019, we made a big decision as a company. We wanted this to go worldwide, and the only way to do that is to go all freemium. So we launched iOS in freemium and changed our entire business model to full-time freemium recurring revenue model. And going from a really nice business, real simple, I had a normal 8-hour workday, good cash flow, back into startup mode. So basically I had built 2 startups in 2 years, and my life has never been the same. It's changed dramatically. This is a whole new world. And I quickly discovered that when you're in the freemium world, you're competing not against other plant apps, which is what I assumed at first. You're competing against millions of other apps for screen time. I think I saw a poll or an article that said most people have about 100 apps on their phone at any one time. And I went through and looked at mine, and I had, I think, 92, so that was pretty spot on. And most of them I forgot about. I didn't even know they existed. Some of them I don't know what they do or why I have them or how long I've had them, but they're on my phone. So using CleverTap, I was able to grow PlantSnap last summer to about 25 million installs by the end of the summer. And it was like a video game, so it was fun. You try different things, some of them work, some of them don't. A/B testing, video game, check the stats the next morning. Woo, high score. You try to better yourself with each campaign. It was fun. And then summer was over. And with the change of seasons came another rude awakening. At that point, PlantSnap was a utility app that identified plants. And for some reason, it never occurred to me that when winter came, that all the plants and trees in the Northern Hemisphere would die, and there would be no reason to use PlantSnap at all until spring came back. So that is not a sustainable business model. So we immediately went into crisis mode and had to figure out, okay, how do we get people to use PlantSnap in both hemispheres and to use them all year long? That's when we made the decision to shift from, to add a social media component so that people could come into the app. Tens of million people around the world could congregate inside PlantSnap, talk about plants all year round. It doesn't matter if there's snow outside or if you're in the Southern Hemisphere and you're planting a garden. You can still look at other people's photos when you can't post your own, and it turned out to be a big success and also another pivot point. But thankfully, CleverTap is very malleable and it's easy to pivot. It was a dramatic shift in our business model. We changed from a one-trick pony utility app where we were focused on monthly retention into a daily, weekly use lifestyle app. So now I've got to worry about daily and weekly retention as soon as I got a good grip on monthly retention. So I'm using CleverTap in a slightly different way than I did previously by focusing on different metrics. Instead of getting easier because we solved the seasonality issue, the job got harder, but CleverTap has these amazing tools that make a really hard job a lot easier. So, RFM, recency, frequency, monetary. Vishal, thank you for creating RFM. I have no idea what RFM does. It segments all of your users into these different categories. Champions use it a lot. Cannot lose them, or people who are about to ditch you because they forgot that you're on their phone or for whatever other reason. And there's different categories in between. How I would have gotten those 40 million users into these different segments on my own, I have no idea. So Vishal, you saved me a lot of time, a lot of headache, and probably it would have been an impossible task. So this has been fantastic. What we do with our RFM segments, if we could go to the next slide, we set up journeys. And a journey, we set up journeys based on our different RFM segments. A journey is like an omni-channel campaign that is created to engage with users in each RFM segment. So as a person enters a segment as a new user, or if they switch from one RFM group, like a champion, let's say someone's a champion, they're using the app every day, and then they don't use the app for a couple of weeks, they'll switch groups automatically with this technology from champion into a different group, like maybe about to sleep because they haven't used it in a while. You don't want people to sleep, so you got to set up journeys. So each of these different RFM groups has a different journey. A new user, we set up an automated journey to send them a push notification thanking them for trying PlantSnap, and we ask them, hey, check your email. We sent you a welcome letter that contains a lot of helpful tips and tricks for getting the most out of the app. That's how we introduce people and thank them for trying us out. A member of our champion group, the best users that we've got, we send them a thank you message and an invitation asking them to fill out a survey. We know that you like the app. How can we make it better? Fill out this survey. We'll give you a free Amazon gift card. And that's turned out to work really well for us and given us some great ideas on how to improve the app. If a member suddenly moves from champion, like I said earlier, into about to sleep or hibernating, it's a whole different journey. We're worried about them at this point. We don't want them to leave and there's some kind of problem. So we set up this particular journey to do two things. We'll send them a push notification. This is all automated. We don't have to do any of it except for set up the journeys. But after that, Vishal's technology takes care of the rest of it. We'll send them a push notification with a cool fun fact, like, hey, did you know that plants communicate with each other with special pheromones to warn about enemies, and just to grab their attention and to remind them, like, hey, PlantSnap is on your phone. We're one of the 100 apps on your phone. We're still on here and we're fun. Don't forget about us. And 5 days later, we'll follow that up with an email, just asking them about their experience. What can we do to be better? And maybe offer them a coupon that will give them 50% off of a yearly subscription. Get them re-engaged. We want them back in the chat in the champion segment. And all of this is automated. It's fantastic. It's definitely my favorite tool in CleverTap so far, except for that new one. Looks kind of neat. I'm excited to play around with it. The interactive journey, is that what I think is called? That one looks like it might be great also. If you could go to the next slide. Okay, so RFM and journeys, that's not the only way that I use CleverTap to communicate with users. We constantly engage with users and we use segment-based notification campaigns. I use a lot of mobile notification pushes. I use a lot of in-app notifications, and we use emails to announce new product features and any sort of new updates and releases is when we will use our emails. One example of how I use a push note or an in-app notification, you want people to subscribe to your app. It's great. Not a whole huge percentage of people will do it, but the more the better. So we have a button called Go Premium inside the app, and I can set up a segment or a campaign that says, okay, if a person has clicked Go Premium 3 times in the past month, then the next time they launch the app, I want it to show them this ad, a full screen interstitial ad that says, click here for 50% off of every subscription that we have. And that is proven to be incredibly effective. Averages like 350% higher than the control group. So I get a lot of use out of that. That's just what I could go on and on about, but I'm pretty sure I've got a time limit. But there's no limit to the ways you can use and customize the different notifications that they have. Next slide, please. Yes, this is what happened when we plugged in the RFM journey campaigns. We increased our 30-day retention rate. At this point, I checked before this summit, we're up to a 3x increase since bringing in CleverTap to 49% 30-day retention rate, which I think is pretty fantastic. Even though now I've got to worry about daily and weekly retention, I'm still very excited about the huge increase we have in our 30-day retention. Next slide. What is next for PlantSnap? The social community has proven to be a huge success. People love talking about plants, and there are hundreds of millions of people around the world who love gardening and love plants and are into nature. So we're going to expand on our social community platform. It's real basic right now because we didn't know how it would perform, but we're adding 10 to 15 new features this fall. We're also adding a really cool technology into the app identification component of the app, which has a wow factor that's never been seen in any other app. So that's the kind of thing we'll be sending an email for. We try to save the emails for the important stuff. And most importantly, we launched several big partnerships this year. We launched one with Snapchat. We've been integrated into Snapchat as a featured partner. We have a partnership with Huawei so that we can sell PlantSnap in mainland China. And we've partnered with over 1,200 botanic gardens around the world that have 700 million unique visitors a year. I never, ever would have thought that botanic gardens receive that much traffic, but they do. So this PlantSnap has evolved into a global citizen scientist project at this point. With these partners in place, they are going to help us introduce PlantSnap to hundreds of millions of people around the world. And we now have the goal of mapping the location of every plant species on Earth by the year 2022. Something that would have been just completely unthinkable just a few years ago and undoable without CleverTap. We would not have grown to the point where we could get this much attention this quickly. So the overall goal and where we're headed in the future, I want to continue building PlantSnap into a global, eco-conscious company whose #1 goal is to make a positive contribution to the Earth and to our environment by playing a small yet significant role in helping scientists fight the effects of climate change on the plant kingdom. Plants make the air that we breathe. There's a condition that I learned about not long ago called plant blindness, which most people suffer from. You walk around the earth and there's plants everywhere, but you don't notice them. You take them for granted. But they're so important. They're the reason that you're alive. So turning this into a giant citizen scientist project makes really good sense. Mapping the entire plant kingdom so that we can learn as much about it as possible. Then we plan to share that data that we've gleaned, 300 million geo-targeted images so far, adding 1 million plus every day. That'll grow to 10 to 20 million a day soon. Share that data with the scientific community. Let them do their best to fix the problems that they find and to help us in this current predicament we find ourselves in. Especially, I think anyone living in California is feeling the effects of that right now. So that's about it for me. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, because I've been through it all. And well, no, I shouldn't say all. I'm sure there's a lot more to come. You never learn everything, but thanks to CleverTap, and their innovation, they never stop innovating, which helps us never stop innovating and never stop growing. And I appreciate you all for that. Thank you.